While nobles feasted in stone castles and knights rode to glory, 90% of medieval Europe lived a life we can barely imagine. This is the story of Jacques, a peasant serf in 13th century rural France, whose single day stands for the reality of countless millions across 1,000 years of history. The year is 1247. He awakens not to an alarm, but to the crow of a rooster, the lowing of a cow, the thin grey light seeping through oiled cloth in a tiny window. The ache in his bones from yesterday's labour answers before his mind does. This is not romance. This is the ordinary, the necessary, the brutal backdrop of an age we often reduce to helmets and banners. Jacques' world is smaller than a modern city block and vaster in its consequences. Fields, a thatched row of cottages, a lane to the Lord's manor, and the church spire like a distant sentinel. Yet within those few square miles are entire lifetimes, births, marriages, debts, burials, all constrained by law, custom, and hunger. His story will unfold in the rhythm of seasons and obligations, dawn, toil, hunger, sickness, night. Cinematic, austere, and unadorned, this is the voice of those history books rarely speak of. We listen now to Jacques not because he is exceptional, but because he is typical, the forgotten majority whose hands shape the world we inherit. Jacques shares a single low-ceilinged room with his wife, 3 children, a sow, a few chickens, and the ever-present damp smell of earth. Woven straw mats serve as bedding. A crude wooden chest holds the family's few garments. There is no glass in the windows, only shutters that rattle in the wind. Smoke from the central hearth threads into the rafters. Embers glow like tired eyes. In the pre-dawn dim, he moves carefully so as not to wake the smallest child. But noise is inevitable. The scrape of a bowl, the cluck of hens, the sigh of an infant. Every movement is shaped by scarcity. Water is fetched from a communal well. Firewood is rationed. The family's tiny garden, a strip of worn soil behind the cottage, must yield herbs, beans, and the root vegetables that stretch each winter's stores. Even the simplest choice, to brew stronger ale or save the grain for porridge, is decided within a narrow margin. He is a serf, bound to his lord by custom and law. That bond is practical as well as legal. He owes labour at harvest and in spring, a portion of his best eggs, and sometimes a day's ploughing on the domain. Marriage requires permission. Leaving the manor without a pass risks seizure of goods, or worse. These constraints are the architecture of his day, not merely duties, but the measure of his freedom. Between the rattling shutters and the faint eastern light, Jacques knots his worn belt, takes a wooden bowl, and steps into a world that will extract everything he has, day after day. Feudalism was less an abstract theory than an arrangement of daily transactions. Lords promised protection and justice. Peasants provided labour, produce and service. For Jacques, this promise was thin: a fortified house for refuge in war, a few soldiers to deter brigands, and the right to till allotted strips of land. In return, he owed corvée, unpaid compulsory labour, and incidentals, the right to mill grain at the Lord's mill for a fee, to press grapes in the Lord's press, to pay for pasturage. This morning his labour is the Lord's. A heavy wooden plough, its iron share battered and blunt, waits in the field. Oxen grunt and strain, their harnesses creak. Jacques does not own the animals, yet he guides them for hours, steering the plough by the feel in his shoulders and the rhythm in his back. The soil is stubborn, clotted with roots. Each furrow demands a small violence. He knows the cycle of the year by its chores: spring ploughing, sowing, weeding, harvest, and the odd repair of hedges and fences. Tools are crude and precious: a scythe's edge, a haft repaired with thrift and care. Backbreaking labour leaves its marks. Hands are calloused and split, knees ache, and a cough can be the beginning of decline. By 30, many peasants appear weathered beyond their years. Yet the social machinery grinds on. Dues must be paid, rents collected, fines enforced. The Lord's manor collects value at every turn. the village cooperates or breaks under pressure. This system sustained kingdoms, funded castles and built cathedrals, all while feeding, barely, the people who performed the work. Food is both ritual and calculus. Breakfast is scant, a piece of coarse rye bread, thick porridge sweetened by a pinch of honey when luck permits, a cup of small beer to ward off foul water. Meat is rare, perhaps a splinter of salted pork at Michaelmas, or the gift of a priestly offering. Most sustenance comes from grains, pulses, root vegetables, and the occasional fish from a nearby stream. Preservation is labor, smoking, salting, drying, techniques passed down because survival depends on them. The agrarian calendar governs anxiety. A wet spring delays sowing. A hard winter eats seed stocks. Blight or an early frost can mean weeks of gnawing hunger or months of death. When harvest fails, the village's safety net is thin. Neighbors share what little they can. Charity from the church or an unusually generous lord offers brief relief, and traveling alms beggars speak of worse places beyond the hills. Many families stockpile root cellars, ferment turnips, or bake a thick hard bread that will last but not nourish. Economics is personal. Each tenth tithe to the church, each fee at the mill, each custom or fine reduces the household's margin for food. Children are fed first when possible, but not always. Hunger shapes choices. To sow a riskier crop that might feed the family but not satisfy the Lord's demands, or to obey and hope for mercy. Life is a ledger of small deficits. Every season of shortage compounds the next. This is the arithmetic of survival, precise, relentless, and indifferent to individual suffering. Disease moves through villages the way wind moves through coppiced trees, invisibly, messily, persistently. Jacques' wife knows the lullaby of loss. 2 children already buried, one to fever in a wet spring, another taken by flux in a crowded winter. Midwives and barbers offer remedies, poultices of herbs, cautery, a prayer from the priest. Folk knowledge mixes with superstition. Leeches and bitter roots are as likely as a blessing to be the last resort. There are no physicians in the modern sense, no germ theory, no antiseptic hands. Epidemics are sudden and terrifying. A cough becomes a household calamity. An infected wound can grow fatal without proper care. Life expectancy averages are low. Many die in infancy, many in childbirth, many in the prime of life. The church provides ritual and consolation. Baptism, last rites, grave sites consecrated with careful words. Yet the clergy often live apart from the filth of daily labor, and their material wealth contrasts painfully with peasant poverty. Care is communal and improvised. Neighbors help bury the dead, women gather to aid in births, and those with more grain quietly share a loaf. There are practical corollaries. Fewer hands in harvest time when sickness takes hold, unpaid labor still due despite bereavement, and a cycle where loss deepens scarcity. Jacques prays, not out of simple faith but as an act of habit and hope. He pays his tithe and watches the church's stores and bells, aware of the paradox. Spiritual comfort amid material imbalance. Every funeral is a reminder of how precarious life truly is. Evening arrives as a grey curtain. Jacques returns from fields with aching shoulders and a mouth that tastes of dust. The lane whispers with the sound of other cottages settling, a door latched, a child's cry, a dog scratching at a post. Firelight gathers them together. The household convenes around a low table. He mends a broken strap, his wife sews a patch on a child's sleeve, and an old man in the next house tells a story half remembered from a festival long ago. Entertainment is sparse but vivid. A traveling minstrel's tune, a dancer's nimble foot at harvest revels, the shared warmth of a story that stitches the village together. There is dignity in routine. Jacques trims the wick, checks the calves, and counts the seed he will guard for spring. He records nothing on paper. Memory is the ledger here. Yet he knows the clan lines, the debts, the names of every field boundary. He loves his family fiercely. He teaches his eldest son to swing a scythe, his daughter to mend netting. These are not trivial tasks, but survival skills and an inheritance of competence. Night brings thoughts that are equal parts resignation and stubborn hope. He imagines a future for his children that might be fractionally better. A marriage into a slightly larger holding, a lucky apprenticeship, a priest who takes pity. He prays for rain at the right time, for the Lord's mercy at harvest, for a neighbor's health. In small pleasures, the taste of warm porridge, the sound of a child's clear laugh, the crease of a repaired coat, life asserts itself. Jacques endures because endurance is necessary. In endurance there is a kind of quiet heroism. History's privileged spectacle, battles, treaties, coronations. But the scaffolding of those histories is built on lives like Jacques, hands that raised stones for cathedrals, backs that tilled the soil that fed armies, hands that spun cloth for noble tables. The medieval world is often remembered in marble and metal, while the true foundation remains clay, furrowed and calloused. What does it mean to remember Jacques? It means acknowledging that the price of grand architecture and dynastic power was paid in small, repeated labors and private losses. It means seeing the routine, the unpaid hours of corvée, the infinite decisions over a crust of bread, as historically consequential. Today we live with institutions, technologies and comforts unimaginable in 1247. But our prosperity has antecedents, a chain of labor, coercion and resilience, stretching back centuries. To look back is not merely to pity, it is to recognize continuity and change, to honor skill and suffering together. There is a moral weight in this recognition. We owe historians attention to ordinary lives, not to romanticize them, but to understand the mechanisms of power and survival. Jacques' day ends much as it began, in darkness, with a small hearth, a family breathing softly around him. Yet in that repetition there is complexity, grief and joy, exploitation and mutual aid, helplessness and agency. In remembering him, we recover part of a story the past tried to forget. So when the camera pulls back from that low cottage to the sweep of fields and the silhouette of the manor, let us hold this image. Countless anonymous lives, each a filament in the vast weave of history. The civilization we admire rests on such threads. To forget Jacques is to thin that weave. To remember him is to restore a measure of justice across time. Not with restitution, but with attention. The calm, unflinching witness of memory that says, "We see you now."